Hey everybody, Josh Neighbors here. This is the College Countdown here on the Rogue Media Networks. It is Monday, January 20th, 2025. Glad to have you with us. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and answer our question of the day. Today's topic is, does the college football playoff need to move up its national championship game? By move up, make it earlier in January. That's what we're tackling today. Obviously, the championship game is tonight. We'll break it all down tomorrow once we get the result, what it means, the implications. But I mean, while I'm sitting here on January 20th, I think it's a pretty good, because there are breakdowns everywhere from really smart folks. And we'll talk a little bit about it at the end. But, I think this is kind of a good topic, if you want some non-football, like, direct football on the field related thing to talk about, because, the game is really being talked to death. I think this is an interesting conversation to have. Once again, like the video, sub to the channel, answer the question. Find us on Twitter at CCPodcastJN. I'm at Josh Neighbors _. So the reason why, we're tackling this, and it's something I felt over the weekend. So I had a busy week last week in general, but with the way the schedule is now and the college football championship game following the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, is this the right time to have it? Because if you're a big football fan like me, and especially if one of your teams is playing, I'm a Commanders fan. But I mean, I was locked into all four of those games this weekend, and then they were all relatively. I mean, the Commanders game was the least competitive, but in the end, it felt competitive because you never knew if the Commanders defense would be able to hold it all. So it felt competitive, even though the score was not competitive, at certain points. But like it did feel like a competitive game, even though the Commanders were up 3 scores. We know how good the Lions' offense is. And so you had those two games stacked. Then you had the Eagles-Rams game, which was just a war of attrition and a fist fight. And then you had the really close ending between Baltimore and Buffalo in the final game. And it kind of leaves you today decompressing, thinking about that, thinking about, Chiefs and Bills, and then NFC's clash, Redskins, Commanders, and Commanders playing the Eagles. Yeah, I mean, it kind of has you thinking about what's going to happen, right? And about those games. And then you follow up those 2 days of massive football with another day, championship game on a Monday night. It just feels odd. And is there a way that the college football playoff can get their championship game onto a weekend? It's going to be really challenging to do, because to do that, you would have to do it, move it up a week, right? Or at least 2 weeks if you want it to be on a Saturday, because last week we had the Super Wild Card round. And then the previous week, I guess that would have been, let's see, because it's January 20th today, which is a Monday. If you went back 2 weeks, you could have gotten it on the area of the 4th and the 5th. If you wanted to do that, I don't have any problem with that. I don't think it's that bad. But the big question is, how do you get there, right? How do you get there? How do you make that happen? And the reason why I'm saying this is because you think about a standard week of football, right? All week it kind of builds to the weekend. And then on Friday night or Thursday nights, you get a game. Now college has, been bumped from there. Friday nights, you've got college games. Saturday all day, you got the college ball. Sunday all day, you got pro ball, Monday night football, right? And so the week kind of builds up to that point. And it's hard when you had a weekend of football like this, where the emphasis is on this, to then switch and refocus back to college. I thought the Thursday night, Friday night was interesting before Super Wild Card weekend. I don't think it hurt it at all. I think going first in the week is helpful, but I think we all would love to see it on a Saturday, right? We all love to see it on a Saturday. And that makes it very difficult. That makes it really challenging to do that. So what are the ways that college football can move their championship game back? Because to me, I think January 20th is far too late for the championship game. January, kind of the 11th range, where it was before, 13th. Not too bad. Didn't hate that. Didn't think it was the worst thing in the world. But I would tell you what, I do feel like the 20th is a bit late in the game. And with the adjustments they're trying to make to the schedule, I'll tell you what, the year-round schedule, bumping this thing back would be good, right? We're talking about one portal window, and we're still factoring education into this. The earlier you can do that portal window, the better off everybody is going to be, right? Because once again, you are enrolling kids in classes. So, well, at least for right now, we are enrolling kids in classes. And so that's what kind of makes it all right. You kind of want to move it back to that point, or move it to that point where, you're able to get kids in classes, not too much of an issue. There is some buzz about it. You're still kind of getting covered. It's happening during the week, and pro football is not happening during the week. So the first step in getting there would be eliminating conference championship games, right? If you were to eliminate conference championship games, you would be able to move up the CFP by a full week, right? By a full week, you'd be able to do it. The first college football playoff game took place a month ago on Friday, December 20th, right? So that's the first time that we had a championship game. The way that you could avoid that, if you go to week 16 actually it was week, so December 6th is when we had the first of the championship games in college football for conferences. On Friday, we had Boise and UNLV and Army and Tulane. So I'm not saying you have to have college football playoff games on that date, but I mean, you should know if we, and I think this should be the case. After rivalry weekend, I think we should just cut it loose. Maybe you give Army Navy the spot the following week, and then you do it the next day, but you should know. Oh, maybe that game could be for the AAC. So, I mean, that would cause a problem, but you figure out what to do with Army Navy, right? That's a big thing, but you can't let one game get in the way of the entire, sport as a whole, as much as we all love Army Navy, right? So December 6th, Friday, December 6th this year, and then Saturday, December 7th are when we had the CFP games, or the conference championship games. So could you make the final week of the regular season, the previous week, rivalry week is that last week in November? And then the first week, could you do the round of, let's say, the first 4 games? And then if you wanted to wait 2 weeks or wait a week, it puts you at December 14th for round 2. And then if you went another week, it puts you December 21st for the semifinals. And then what you could do is you could wait till New Year's Day if you wanted to pick a day, like New Year's Day. If you wanted to pick New Year's Day for your championship game, you could do it. Now that brings kind of a whole condensing of it. If you wanted to move it back a week, so let's just say they put Army Navy, and I'll share my screen with you all. Let's just say they put Army Navy a week up. Okay. So let's say Army Navy goes from December 14th, they bump it to December 7th. Then your selection show is on December 8th. So what that would mean is, or December 9th, whatever. Yeah, December 8th is where you put that. If you wanted to go, if you didn't mind having a week to go to get to your playoffs, then you could then play the games on Saturday, right? Or you could do the Friday night 1-3 on Saturday on December 14th here, right? And then you'd have another 4 games on January 21st. Now, this year on the 21st, that's actually Saturday, December 21st, is the day they had the first round, right? And so you had Clemson, Texas, SMU, Penn State, Ohio State, and Tennessee. That way, you've got those games happening then, all right? So what you could do is, when you have those games happening a week earlier, if you wanted to then if you wanted to then, so basically the way it works is round 2 is happening the second to last week of December. Then do you want to have your semifinal games the following week, right? You could go there, or what you could do is, you could wait till that Saturday. Now it pushes you back a bit more, but you do have some flexibility there. You have a lot more dates to play with, and it ends the season a lot faster. Just to me, I mean, I hadn't forgotten about the college championship game. I cover college sports, but it's on a Monday night, and it's after the biggest sports league in the country just had one of their biggest weekends. I haven't seen the TV ratings for the divisional round, but as always, they're big. And when you think about the divisional round, or rather the 2 games that they had the first round of the college football playoff, when the Chiefs play the Texans and the Steelers play the Ravens, so then they could set up the Christmas Day game, right? Those games rated really, really well. Now, I know the games during the day in that first round were on TNT, which did hurt a little bit, I think, in my opinion. But I think that, anytime the NFL is on, it's just going to be a ratings jamboree. And are you running the risk here of people being footballed out, right? Are people footballed out tonight? I don't think the ratings will get harmed. I think Ohio State, Notre Dame. I'm just saying kind of the overall health of the sport. Like the whole NFL stadium final game on a Monday night is just so un-college football. And I think what made this last playoff great was like watching Notre Dame break through. Didn't mind it in a bowl game, but like it felt more college-ish, right? And these games stood alone too. I like the fact that we had the Thursday, Friday, like they could recreate that, and I'll be totally fine with them doing that again. And actually, I didn't see. Let's see, CFP semifinal ratings. So on Thursday and a Friday, let's see. So there was a 17% drop in the CFP semifinal ratings. Now, the ratings before would have been closer to New Year's Day, right? So it'd been in that range. So those games happening that during then, and being once again smaller tournament, that might be a big reason why. But there's more games now, and because there are more games, you're still going to end up doing pretty well. Let's see, and also NFL sees 8% drop in wild card ratings. ESPN experience most watched Cotton Bowl and CFP semifinal. Yeah, so I mean, there is a kind of relationship here where I think there's just so much football happening at once. And so how do you make it to where you can stagger your football with the NFL's and deliver a product people want to see and not get cut out? Because, I mean, Notre Dame, Ohio State's a great championship game in terms of brands. 100%. No doubt about it. But I think there is some football fatigue on a Monday night on, a day, the inauguration's happening today, obviously. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, people were off, so they should be able to watch. But like, it's a work day tomorrow after a long weekend. How late do people want to stay up to watch a game tonight? I think that is a big question too. And so I've loved the 12-team playoff. I think it went really, really well. I think the games were compelling. I think the games here towards the end were compelling, right? The Notre Dame game was super close, right? The Notre Dame game was very close. They were able to get over the hump and keep Penn State at bay and end up coming from behind and getting that win. And then Ohio State and Texas. I mean, Texas is 1 yard away from tying that thing up. Another exciting game. Arizona State was a close game with Texas. Georgia, close game with Notre Dame. So I mean, the last games that we watched were all pretty close ball games, good ball games. Just a matter of me of nailing that schedule, right? And look, there are going to be some awkward, weird nights because you are dancing around the NFL. But I thought the CFP semifinals were good times, good nights, and I think this first year has been a success. Interested to see if they expand the playoff, what that does to more scheduling. But I think there's definitely a path here. The big issue is you're going to have the conferences agree to get rid of their conference championship games. The way the college football playoff can make that happen is trying to replace revenue as best as possible, because I actually don't know what the numbers are on how much the conference championship games net for these conferences. But the best you could kick them back some more of the advertising revenue from the games here. And here's the thing, you need to do that for every conference, right? Because there might be a year where the MAC championship game hands us the best team, right? Hands us, the AQ. There's a year the Mountain West might do it. So you'd have to fill in the gaps for those conferences. And I'm sure those conferences, love those conference championship games. They do really well, especially if they get to host them at venues where it's the home team, right? Like UNLV. That probably cuts some major costs for them, not having to rent a stadium out and having to have a date set at a certain place and get everybody there and whatnot. Having it in those home stadiums probably saves them a lot of cash, I'd venture to say. And so I because teams traveling anyway, one team doesn't have to travel at all at that point. Other team has to travel, yes, but kind of makes for a better environment, a better TV product. And so, yeah, it's the whole thing though, TV product wise, like that's what you're replacing. But still every conference would have to get something in return if you were going to go that route and get rid of conference championship games. I'm for it because like those games this year, I mean, ASU Iowa State mattered, but like complete blowout. UNLV Boise mattered. UNLV kind of got rolled, right? Georgia and Texas didn't. I mean, it mattered for a bye, but like both those teams got in. Penn State and Oregon, both those teams got in. And also, I'm a big believer too when it comes to seeding. This is not necessarily scheduling, but seeding wise, we need to seed them 1 through 12. Like we cannot have Oregon run into Ohio State in round 2. I mean, it's going to happen at some point in time, especially if there's an injury and a guy comes back. But it just, I think there's ways to avoid it. So let me know what you all think about moving things up, moving it up a week. Putting Army Navy a week earlier, getting rid of the conference championship games. Let me know in the comment section. Also at CC Podcast JN. And at Josh Neighbors _. As far as the game goes tonight, I know it's late to do a preview, but I've got Ohio State. I said it since day one, best roster in the country. I had a buddy the other day make an argument to me. I'm not sure if I believe it yet. Thought about it some, but love to know what you all think too. If Ohio State doesn't lose the Michigan game, are they still here? And I think there's a good case to be made for yes and a good case to be made for no, right? Like Ryan Day kind of realizing, all right, I have to get out of my own way and make things happen, or else this will get, south in a hurry. Or there's like the side of it where it's like they always had this in them, no matter what. If they beat Michigan, maybe it was an impressive win over Michigan, because they didn't beat Michigan. So you have to figure out what kind of win would it look like, and what does that win actually mean for Ohio State? Are they finding that next year? Are they getting themselves to a place where it's like, all right, this is the team that we wanted to see? That's kind of the big question. So I'm wondering if that's the case, but they are a hammer now. And I know teams are having guys drop, and Notre Dame up front's been really tough, but they've lost guys up front on defense as well. Offensive lineman, obviously, out of tackle. Riley Leonard, he has been, just grinding out wins. How much more does he have left? And can he avoid pressure the way he has done so in the playoffs? I mean, he is a magician when it comes to getting away from pressure, and he's good at extending drives and making plays. I need that again tonight. I definitely think so. And you have to help guys get open too, because this Ohio State secondary is legit. I mean, everywhere in Ohio State is legit, and they're using all of their weapons. I mean, getting Jeremiah Smith involved some games, one catch last game, but Ibuka and Carnell Tate and Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins are making plays up front on defense. They made the plays they had to. I think Notre Dame can keep it close, but Ohio State, man, is just they're a wrecking ball right now, and I don't think Notre Dame is going to be able to handle it. I don't think so. They'll be able to hang tough, but for them, it's about like not falling in too big of a hole, right? Ohio State started fast last week. Ohio State started fast, so I mean, with how fast they started, like you've got to prevent that again. Cannot allow that to happen again, because you don't want to have Riley Leonard and company crawling out of a hole. Now they're able to do it some, but like this is kind of the team that they can do what they did. They can grind out a drive, Ohio State, but also they can hit an explosive play like they did to Travion Henderson. And as soon as it feels like you're cutting back into the lead, they take it back, right? They just seem a step ahead of everybody else right now. All right, that will do it for today's show. Once again, at CC Podcast JN, like the video, sub to the channel, and we'll see you all mañana to break down the championship game.
We are Rogue Media Sports.